Welcome. So glad that you guys are here and joining us today. I've got the amazing Maria Geffers with me. What's cool about Maria is she works with kids that want to figure out what career they want to go through, and she helps them figure out their career path so that they can get into the right college that they are meant to be able to go on into. And then on top of that, she guides them into how do you find the right scholarship and all of those different pieces. And it's really great because I actually have a daughter right now. She's struggling. She has no idea what she wants to do. She's a sophomore. And, I reached out to Maria because I was like, okay, yeah, we got to figure this out. So this is what I love because the classes that you take in high school will
hmm
affect then where you go. And I think another cool thing is when we're tutoring our students, it gives them purpose. So when they say that they want to, be a flight, aviator or pilot or something
hmm
like that, and they're like, when will I ever use math? We can now say, well, as a pilot, right, you're going to
Right.
need a lot of math. So you definitely don't want to, take this, not seriously, right? So we can really start giving them like purpose into why they want to learn the things that they are. So I'm super excited to have her on. So welcome, Maria.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. As always, I'm always excited to talk to you, Joanne. You're so
Hmm.
energizing. What can I tell you?
Yeah, it might be the coffee that I'm drinking, but
And here's my coffee. So there you go.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I love it. So tell us, I know that you kind of have taken a different path. Did you always know what you wanted to be for your career?
Absolutely not. When I went to college, I was in New York City, born and bred there, if you will. And my mom really didn't have too much faith in me going to college. I have to say that. So she suggested a college which was very well known, Pace University down in New York City, Manhattan. And she says, well, why don't you go for secretarial work there? Being in the middle of New York City, there was always going to be plenty of jobs down there. So coming from, I went to a small Catholic preparatory school. So we never took business at all. Typing was like, holy moly, never took it. So I went in I listened to my mom, of course, and I went there and typing I could manage. I had a really hard time with it. Being left-handed, everything was not so easy, flowy. But then when it came to shorthand, again, left-handed shorthand was what they used in those days. So basically, I had to tell the professor that I would never ever really become a secretary. Just pass me. Just let me go through this whole process and pass me, on. So she did, and then I decided. My older sister, was a nurse, so I decided, well, maybe I'll be a nurse. Meanwhile, I always had in the back of my mind as a child, we always played classrooms, we always played teacher. I was always a teacher. So I went and kind of fiddled with that for a very short period of time. And then I decided, you know what? I really do want to teach. I love teaching. So that's what I did. I was in my second year in college, and I decided that I really wanted to be an English professor, if you will. I loved reading, I loved writing, and so that's what I did. I got my bachelor's degree in English communication, and then I had a minor in social studies, which I love. I find that there is such a connection there. So no, I didn't start off where I wanted to be, but ultimately, through actually self-realization that, I didn't want to be a secretary, didn't want to have to say the boss tell me, would you get my coffee, Maria? I'm thinking, what? Get up and get it yourself, you know, um, you know, or call my wife, Maria. No, that wasn't really going to be for me. Nursing, I wasn't really crazy about sticking needles in people, so that was not a good fit. But teaching English was perfect, and I knew it right away, and I flowed with it. So I understand how some kids have to try on different hats,
Mhm.
um, but no, but once you know you're in the flow, it comes together.
Mm.
And it's a beautiful thing when we get into the flow. So yes, I can empathize with all the parents out there and the students who don't know where they want to be, what they want to do. And so why I love teaching, because that's what I did.
Oh my gosh. And that path almost like it's so beautiful because that path kind of led you into I really want to be able to help
Right.
others that are struggling figure this out. And you worked with a lot of gifted and talented students at one point?
Yes, as a teacher, I decided my middle daughter was identified as teacher, as a gifted person, and it's not easy for gifted students. A lot of them are misunderstood, and so she had a really hard time. And a lot of teachers, when she asked questions, they thought it was kind of going against their authority. They
Mm,
became that, and we all, as a teacher, we all know that kind of situation where you just kind of get your back up. So she was having a hard time, kind of going through high school because she was inquisitive. She would ask the questions why. I remember one time she had a question in math. Now, I'm not a mathematician, that is not my forte, but I was working in middle school and I knew this great math teacher. And I said she wanted to know how many degrees is in a period, that one of those dots, period.
mhm.
So I said, all right, let me write it down because I wanted to make sure I got it correct. And I brought it to the math teacher, and he thought that was a great question. It took him 15 minutes to really kind of process it and realize, it's 360 degrees no matter what the dot is. But and then kind of made her go into the non-Euclidean geometry, if you will. So, of course, I was totally lost, wrote it down and gave it to her. But that kind of gave me the impetus to really go and study gifted education. I got my master's in gifted education leadership in the University of Connecticut, loved every moment of it. And finally, when we opened a school in my district, it was an opportunity for me to step up and really go into the gifted programming, create a program around what the student wanted, what were they good at, finding out who they were. And kids just loved it because finally someone was giving them the freedom to really explore themselves, and they flourished. And I was asked then to move to another school district, and I did the same thing there. And then I was called back to my original, almost like your journey, how you were. And I was called back to my original school district, and again created a program. And so when it was time for me to retire, I always say I took 2 years of sleep, catching up on my sleep, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I decided that I really loved teaching. I really loved and missed working with that student to find out who they really were. And so my husband was in finances, and we thought that was a perfect marriage, if you will, of putting a business together. And that's how we came up with what we do. Our program is based on great pedagogy. It's not just fly by the seat of your pants and if this feels good. It's based on real knowledge, research, and the kids flourish underneath it. It's amazing. They just
Mhm.
blossom. And that's such a great feeling to see. And that's what we're about when we're teaching.
Yeah. And it really like my daughter, my oldest daughter went through it and what it identifies are her gifts, which is a very different type of assessment that kids are typically taking, right? Cuz a lot of times we're looking for their weaknesses, like where are they not strong so we can close that gap, but here we're
Right,
really looking for their strengths and their
right.
interests to really determine what's going to be a good path for them. And I really appreciate I appreciate that opportunity for kids to explore that because they don't have enough opportunity. I remember, like, my
No.
daughter took one of those tests in school. She was just livid. You know what it told her she should have for a career? Because she cared about the environment, they told her that
Hmm.
she should be a garbage man.
Oh God, oh God, oh God.
I don't even think that should be
Otherwise,
on there, like, that is, like for a kid as smart as my 4.0
right,
child, right? Like, and to
right.
be like, "I'm sorry, you're not good enough, you're garbage." Like, that's, like, what she left with, like, "That's what I'd be good at because I care about the environment." Like, that doesn't make any sense, and
And
then
it can be devastating to them. because
Yeah.
teenagers, I mean, if you remember back to your own teenage years, and as I always say, no one gets out of high school unscathed. I mean, we all carry those scars of being not in the right person, not looking the best, not being in the right crowd. What crowd are you in? And so being told that that's what you really are only able to aspire to can be devastating.
Yeah. And I'm
It's
sure
just
it
like,
gave her other things too. Like I'm
right,
sure there were
right.
5 or 6, but that is the only one that she will remember today.
and
Right.
and it's so it carries through her. She's got that, and that bothered her, you
It
know.
did. I think it did. I think it did. She's like, "I'll show them. I'm not gonna be a garbage bag."
Exactly.
No, man, I'm gonna be in the military. That's what I'm gonna be. She's kicking butt so much in the military, which I think is fantastic. She keeps being asked to do the highest
Yep.
like jobs, but they all require more work, and she is just done. And she's like, you know what? Thank you for the opportunity, but at this point, I have to decline. Like,
Yeah.
and I
And
think
what
it's
a
so
great
cool that she was
feeling.
able to like speak up for herself and be like, I'm sorry, I
Absolutely.
know I have the highest grades,
Hmm.
but I'm injured. Like, but she can't tell them that she's injured, right?
Right, right.
She's got a hurt hip, and if she tells them she has a hurt hip, they're gonna make her go all the way back to the beginning. And she's like, I'm not
Nope.
telling them I'm hurt, so but I'm going to say no because I am hurt,
Hmm.
and
Yep,
it's not
absolutely.
right for me. And I'm like, these are the things that you need to learn. Like, these are great
Hmm.
lessons that you're learning. You don't
Hmm.
just like because somebody tells you you need to do something. You actually think through, does this make sense for me?
Right. Right.
Right?
And that's something that's self-actualization, but it's also the way that she was raised too, Joanne. I mean, we as parents do have those influences over them. So you taught her that it was okay to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, you in your story, you always talk about how sometimes you said yes, yes, yes to things that you really weren't sure about. And, you tried and you failed, but ultimately you overcame, if you will,
Mhm.
or we learn through our failures, we
We
grow
do.
through our failures. And so she saw you as a role model, and she knew it was okay to say no, that this
Yeah.
was not where I was supposed to be. And
Yep.
that's okay, you know.
Yep. Yeah, and that as an adult, that's what they need to do. So
Hmm.
I would love to hear, who is your ideal student? Who do you love being able to work with when it comes to trying to figure out the career?
I love working with, well, we open up, our assessment is from ninth grade all the way up to 12th, and the assessment is actually all the way up into adulthood. So, I mean, this is an assessment that's been around for 65 years, and you can't fool around with it. You can't, kids sometimes think they can play around with tests. You can't. I mean, this is just so perfect. My ideal client would be a student who doesn't know what they really want to do. They have so many, they can have so many talents that they have that they're confused, which often happens with gifted kids, or they don't have a clue. They haven't found who they are. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can pretty much help anyone. And I really mean that not because of who I am, but because of the results that I get with this assessment. And it is amazing. So if you have a student, a child who doesn't know what they want to do, I can help them form that path and give them those choices. If you have a student who is good at everything, which is just as equally frustrating,
Right.
I can give them options as well. We can narrow it down. It's always talking, getting the information, getting the data, and then working it through. It's so
Hmm.
you just don't hand the data to the kid. You walk it through. You say, well,
Right.
these are the options that you have. What about here? What about there? And that's what we do. So we can work with pretty much any student who is willing to be open to suggestions,
Yeah.
you know, and, it's a lifelong tool that we have. It's about a 50-page report. And I always tell the kids, get a binder, put it in the binder, so it's always there.
Yeah.
It's because we get lost sometimes. We get lost in the process of living. And so having that right there says, you know what, this is who I am. This is why I act the way I do. If I don't like it this way, I know why. It's just so, it gives the student tools that they can use for the rest of their lives. And that's what I
Hmm.
really love working with. So we can work with anyone from ninth grade all the way pretty much to 12th grade. And then adults, we also work with, using the assessment.
Yeah, yeah, and it works for kids who do even know where they're going. So I know that my
Mhm.
oldest daughter, she just knew, like, she's like, "I wanna be a physical therapist, like, that's what I wanna do." When she
Mhm.
took the test, she was able to validate that her strengths were leading her towards, physical therapy, and I think that's so cool
Mhm.
because that's exactly what it's about, right? It's about I think it was, like, the health professions was, like, where it, like, kinda guided her too, and she's like, "Well, it says health professions, it doesn't say PT." And I'm like, "Well, sweetheart, it's more about, like, you just understanding, is this the right fit for you, like,
Right.
this general category so that you now can start looking and discovering and figuring it all out." And,
Mhm.
I didn't know either what I wanted to do
No,
going through.
no.
I thought I had a friend and okay, so this is I'm so competitive. It's insane. So, I had a friend and she, like, dumped me as a friend in, like, I think it was, like, 8th grade, and I was like, my heart was broken that, my best friend broke up with me kinda,
Mhm.
and
Yes, I
and
understand.
she wanted to
Absolutely.
be a lawyer. So, I was like, "That's it, I'm gonna be a lawyer. If she's gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna be a lawyer." I have no idea, like,
Uh,
why I had that thought. So then I started, like, as I started going through high school, I was like, "Oh, I like chemistry, and what about" like, I started talking to my chemistry teacher, and he's like, "Well, what about, like, environmental law?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"That's it, that's it, that's what I'm gonna
Mhm.
do." Went to college,
Mhm.
joined mock trial, and all of a sudden I was like, "Wait, if if I find out that the guy that I'm supposed to be representing is guilty, I still have to, like, stand by their side." It was like this big, like, aha moment that came to me,
Yep.
like,
Yep.
this is a really big one for me, like, I don't think I
Mhm.
can get over this hurdle.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I this that's a big one for me, and so then I was like, "Okay, so I need to change direction here,"
Mhm.
and ended up going on into education because I was like, I love kids and I love
Yeah.
being able to
Yeah.
teach, and that's how I felt, but I had no idea. It was like sometimes you have to, like, step into these wrong paths and these wrong
Yep.
hats, right, to figure out what is going to be the right path. So even if, they don't they're starting the journey now. And would you rather start with them earlier or later? Like, would you say ninth, 10th grade, you'd rather start with them, or would, 11th, 12th after they're, you know, kind of at that point? Like,
Well, just because we're always looking for, if your end goal for us to be working together is college, getting him into a college, 12th grade is really late. Everything is done. So the earlier we start, 10th grade is probably a really good time because what we can do then is once we find out the career, we can start guiding them through coursework that they need to take.
right.
Okay. And we can also then start looking at clubs that they should be working in. So we
Yes.
can start guiding them in. Now, of course, some people say, well, they should experience the whole high school. And it's true. But we're talking about once you have a goal, you know where you want to go. And as long as you know where you're going, and even if, say, for instance, the value of chorus is important. It's a team effort. But if that's not where your career is, then you need to realize that, how much effort, how much time do you want to donate to that? If you're going into chemistry, if that is something that you want to do, you need to then learn that you need to get the AP chemistries underneath your belt. You should be joining, the science clubs, if you will. You should be looking for job shadowing opportunities to make sure that this is a good fit. So you can start kind of nipping and tucking. And
Yeah.
then, of course, start looking for colleges that are out there for you. We believe that you should have the career first, then you do your major, and then you choose your college. Unfortunately, most people, as most kids, will choose a college first because their best friend is going there or their boyfriend is going there. I mean, I did the
Mhm.
same thing. I didn't want to go away for nursing because it was very far away. And at that point, I was dating my husband to be husband, and I didn't want to go that direction. I didn't want to be that far. And that's okay to realize that. Now we laugh at it. But choosing the college that has your major and that is a good fit for you, whether it's a large college, a small college, that's important. So we start getting that path for that student. Um, And that's what we do.
Yeah.
You can experience the whole high school uh, piece. You can be in the choral group, but you can't you have to know what is the important piece for you, because by the time we talk about that, we know that you're going to be in the science field. Maybe not chemistry, maybe something else, but the science field. And so you need to start moving towards that, because that's what colleges look for.
Yeah.
They want to know, were you a person who had a path? Um, why should we take you if you're kind of floating all over the place? You could float on out, from this
Hmm.
particular college. And, I always say college is a business. They don't want their students dropping out, because the more students that drop out, the less of they lose their ranking. So they
Mm.
want to keep their ranking very high. And so how they do that is making sure the students that they take are going to stay there for the 4 years, and usually six, because the graduation rate now is 6 years in a just to get your BABS.
Mm.
So that type of thing. It's very it's really crazy how we do the college thing, but you have to understand that. So we guide them through that so that they know what they're doing. They haven't wasted any valuable time. They have a direction, and that's what all kids need: direction. All parents need direction, for crying out loud. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We just had a great question, which is what's the name of the test that you use to discover their occupations?
The name of the assessment that we use is called the Berkman assessment. It's been around, for 65 years. It has a huge database. So, and it's a very different assessment. It's not, do you like to color or do you like to work with your hands? It's very intricate, but it's not overwhelming for the kids. It takes no more than an hour, and it's online, and it's really a great assessment. And again, it's used. Harvard University uses it when they're looking for their professional staff and their professors. The New Jersey Department of Transportation uses it for profiling to see if you're the right candidate. And ministry uses it also when they're calling a new minister to their parish, their church. So it's versatile. It goes, as I said, you can take it at age 14. You'll never have to take it again, and it's good till the day that you die. I mean, that's how
Hmm.
kind of crazy it is. It is so good. And what was really great about it is that you can actually, when we're working with the student, you actually start helping them through their interview process. So I always say to the kids, the first question they're going to ask you when you go for an interview is, so tell me who you are. And if you don't know who you really are, you'll just say, oh, I like people. I like to do this. When you're finished, you will know exactly who you are.
Hmm.
You'll know, I'm a planner. I like to plan. I do well with working with people, that type of thing. You'll have all the verbiage down, but you'll also have that terrible question that we all get asked. So, Joanne, what's your weakness?
Hmm.
And you'll know your weaknesses because we go through them. We go through those stress times, and we tell you this is what happens when you're stressed because of this. But so you'll know it. But
Right.
you'll also be able to tell them, I know when I start withdrawing from people, okay, I realize that my need was I didn't get enough affirmation. So I know that. So now I can fix it.
Yes.
I can go and say, oh, okay, what do I need? How do I get that affirmation? Whether it's self affirmation or a colleague saying, good job. Uh, so knowing that when you're doing these interviews, I often, withdraw, but I know then because I feel like I'm not getting enough affirmation, so I can fix that. So
Hmm.
the person who's interviewing you, whether it's for a job, whether it's for a scholarship, whether it's for admissions, knows, wow, this kid really has a handle on who they are.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's just priceless,
It really
priceless, if you
is.
will.
It really
Hmm.
is. It really is. And so it really prepares them for that. And it also prepares them for being remembered in the classes they're taking now. I remember one of the tips that you gave Caitlin was, hey, like who's as you're going on this journey, you're gonna have to ask somebody to write a recommendation for you. Write them a letter now.
Yep.
You're not going to ask
Hmm.
them for the recommendation now, but you're going to write them a letter now that says, "Thank you so
Hmm.
much. You really inspired me to choose this path or to go this direction. And I just wanted to thank you for being such an incredible teacher because teachers hardly ever get those kinds of affirmations. So they'll
Absolutely.
mostly like keep that piece of paper somewhere, or they'll remember it, will stand out to them. And in my daughter's school, there are over 2,000 kids that go to that school. So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
really hard to stand out in your classes in that kind of a
Absolutely.
situation. So I think that's really cool that she, was able to do that and be able to then ask them for the recommendation and move forward. So it's like really preparing them for this journey of
Absolutely.
applying. And I think it also saves money, like because honestly, we have to be real here. Would I have chosen Marquette University to be a teacher? No, never. Like,
Hmm.
now that I look back on it, I never would have chosen that university to become a teacher. I would have chosen a different school, which would have cost a lot less
Right.
than that
Right.
school because I chose that school because it was really good in law, but I didn't have any guidance that
Right.
I was really making the best choice. I was a first generation, really college bound
Yep.
person. My dad
Yes.
went back to school as an adult, but he didn't graduate. And so I was going to be the first one to actually graduate from college. And so I didn't have anybody guiding me. Like my parents didn't
Right.
know how to guide me. They'd never done it. How do you guide somebody in something you've never done?
Right.
My
Right.
guidance counselor was like, "Oh, you want to go to Wisconsin? That's a great idea. Like you need to get away from your family." Like that was like the gist of it. And then from there it was like, "Well, figure it out, Joanne." And I think I could have saved myself and my family so much money
Right.
by
Right.
making a better choice. And it's like you don't realize, like, especially when people like look at the cost of like working with, people like you, right? They're like, oh my gosh, but it's gonna cost. You have to really think about it from no, it is going to save because you're gonna send them onto the right path and help them choose the right
Right.
school and all that great stuff. And so
Right.
it is, there's a financial investment, but there isn't everything. So why not make a financial investment that's actually going to be, you know, setting your child up for the best possible situation and scenario that is
Right.
going to be best for them. Do you
And
ever
making sure
find
they
out?
graduate in 4 years.
I was like, do you ever find out that people just maybe aren't ready for college or that college isn't going to be a good fit?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that, I'm a firm believer that college isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
You can choose a college. We need good people who are in the plumbing industry, the
Yeah.
construction worker, the people that we call professional people call to help out, to do the things that they can't do, and we should respect them. I mean, I think sometimes we get that professional. Well, you are only working in a school district. You realize how much you actually depend on your secretarial staff, your janitorial staff who make things happen, clean your classroom, make it nice.
Hmm.
Your bus drivers, I mean, they're the first line defense. And what goes on in the classroom often is started in the buses. Our assessment does that. So it is used for not only college, but also for the trades.
Hmm.
We can say, I have an example. I had a client who her son was in 10th grade, her husband was an engineer, and she was a school teacher. Okay.
Hmm.
And this 10th grader had no idea what they wanted to do. And so she decided she wanted to kind of start guiding him towards something. And, we did the assessment. And, as I get the assessment, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, you get a little kind of a little nervous because knowing the parents, engineers are a totally different breed than,
Married to one. Yes, I know.
so, I mean, they think differently.
Hmm.
They have that gift. So what happened was this student actually his career should be in the culinary arts. Okay. So I was like, oh gosh, how am I going to tell this high powered engineer and the elementary mom that her son really will thrive in this culinary career? So, I went through the whole thing, and I got to the career and I said, he really tested high in culinary arts. That's a possibility. Well, she screamed and she said, he loves cooking. He adores cooking. And I said, well, to myself, I went, phew. But it was a great affirmation of how powerful this piece is. It said
Right.
culinary arts,
Yeah.
and there it is.
Yeah.
And so he did, he had a path. And of course, culinary arts is so broad as well. I mean, it includes business, it
Sure.
includes, as you said, math. I mean, so this student, instead of trying to go to college for something that he really didn't want, he wasn't gifted in it, you know, he could go to culinary school now,
Hmm.
and
That's
he'll
beautiful.
be happy and successful. And I always say that's what we want as parents, and that's what we want as teachers. We want the kids to be happy and
Hmm.
successful. And success doesn't always isn't always measured by money, but it's that self-fulfillment that you get when you did a job well done.
Yeah.
And that's what we give to people.
Well, and I can only imagine like the enjoyment that he gets when people taste something that he's created and they're like,
Right,
"Oh my God, this is so amazing." Right? That's gotta be so fulfilling, right?
right.
And that's what this is all about. It's like doing those things that you love to do, that you're good at, that people need. And I as you were telling that story, I was just thinking, what a beautiful gift for that child, because
Yeah,
he may not have had parents that would have been open-minded to that opportunity had he just said, "I wanna go for cooking, mom," or "I
right.
wanna go into the culinary arts." She would have been like, "What? Like, where is this coming from?" Or maybe she would have been
Exactly.
completely, open-minded to it. Who knows? Like, we don't know. We don't know, know enough about the parents or
Right,
how they
right,
react. But what a beautiful gift that now they both had that confirmation. Okay, I've seen this in him. You're right. He does have it. He does enjoy it.
right,
Let's start him on this path. And even if it's not the right path, at least we got him on a path that was
right.
started based off of things that he enjoys.
And the data supports it. It's not
Yep.
like a feeling, I like to cook, mom, which is great. It could be an interest, which is fine. We all have different interests that we energize ourselves with, but this was supported by data and it was there for them to look at. They had it
Yeah.
right in front of them. So they knew that this was a possible career path for him. You
Yeah.
know, there's so many stories I have of that. If I could tell one story that Tom and I, my husband and I, still laugh about. We had a student, we get a call from a mom, and she wants to employ our services. And I said, great, what is your son interested in? And she said, he wants to be an astrophysicist. So I said, wow, that's really cool, astrophysicist. Okay, so then we meet with the student and the mom. We always meet with the parents when we do the initial and the unpacking because it
Mhm.
opens relationship and communication between the parent and the student. So we're sitting down, his name, we're going to call him Val. That's not his real name. But Val was sitting with me, very articulate young man. He was a junior. And I said, so, took the test and I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the results and science is nowhere to be found. It's at the bottom of the bottom of the list. I'm saying, whoa, Nelly, we have a real, hiccup here. So I said to him, I said, well, we took the test and how did it do? Da, 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 da. And I said, your mom said you wanted to be an astrophysicist. And he looked at her and says, Mom, an astrophysicist? Where did you get that? And she says, well, you like Star Wars and, Star Trek. And I thought that would be where you wanted to go yeah, I know. So, he says, Mom, I don't want that. And it came out he was in mock trial. He wanted to be a lawyer. Okay. The
Ah.
career field was legal. So it was a great fit. He went on to Hofstra in New York and then continued on to law school. But it's just so fun that mom had no idea what her son really wanted to do. She had some idea that because he liked Star Wars, he really wanted to be an astrophysicist. And it was just one of those fun things that, he was totally shocked. Ma, where did you get that idea from? And we laugh about it now, but it's just communication between the parent and the child, how sometimes we don't communicate,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it's this particular what we do is we actually open communications from between the parents and the child. And
Hmm.
by the child having that data, they can say, this is who I am, and I
Yeah.
want to do this, and the data supports it. So
Right.
it's a great field to be in. Love it, love it, love it.
That's awesome. Now, for parents who are listening to this and now they know that you do this, what advice would you give them for their child that is in ninth, 10th grade?
Start early. Okay, start preparing, the student if to see if college is what they want to do. Okay, if they're on that college track, start with the testing. Of course, the SATs or ACTs. Start prepping. The times the student takes those tests, the better, the more used to they are. Okay, so that would be the first thing. The second thing is, again, find out what careers are good for that child. You can take, obviously, I believe our assessment is the best, but there are other smaller assessments that you can take and find out their interests, find out, I hate to say passion because passion is really misused in a lot of ways. You can have a passion for music, but that's not a career you need to follow. So you need to look at that student. You need to start, once they find the career that they want, then you can start, and the major, you can start nipping and tucking their experiences, whether it's joining clubs, going out and starting to really go into the community, do some job shadowing. That's a great way of learning if this is a field that you want to be in. Start job shadowing. Most people love having students around. Big plus. Start, as you said, start looking at teachers and mentors who you can ask for recommendations. You're starting to build that portfolio. You're
Hmm.
starting to tell your story, and that's what we want them to do. We want to make sure that everything is done by 11th grade so that they can go to that early decision. Okay, if they have all their testing done, they have their resumes ready to go, and they've gotten their path, then you're ready to go for early decision. And early decision is so, so important because that is when you're going to get the maximum amount of financial aid, okay, which
Hmm.
all of us need. Very few of us can pay out of pocket for college. Um, so you have that financial aid piece. It is also, colleges want to make sure that you are actually a warm body in their seats. They want to fill their classes as soon as possible, November, December. That's it. So you want to go into 11th grade, going into fall of senior year, and you want to make sure that you have your students settled. And then senior year can be the year of all the memories, of all the wonderful things that happen in senior year. If you have a student that is not prepared, we get calls in April. We have calls in April that parents don't know what to do, where to go. Can you help me? I really can't. I
Right.
can help you. You know, one last thing that I must say, you need to have your student should develop their own email that is specifically for college. Okay. And the reason is that's how colleges communicate with you. If
Hmm.
you don't have a designated email, whatever that is, their stuff will get lost. I had a parent call me in April. We were talking. He was actually graduating that year. He knew where he was going, but the mother said, we haven't heard from the financial aid office yet. And I said, those letters went out in, February, March. This is now April. You need to call them right away because if
Hmm.
you don't respond to them, they're going to give that money away.
Hmm.
Well, what happened? It was in their student's email. The kid
Mm.
never, I mean, if it's anything like mine, you get lost.
Yep.
But you want to make sure that they have their own special email that all college information goes to. That's like pivotal. It sounds so little, but it
Mhm.
can be catastrophic
Yeah.
if you don't, answer them right away. So
Mhm.
prepare 10th, you want to make sure that you're ready to go. 11th grade, this is a great time. Start getting your job shadowing together. And so senior year, it's done. And you can
Yes.
walk in and enjoy your senior year, which
Not
is a
stress out,
wonderful
right?
year. Right. Parents stressing out, kids stressing out, and graduation then, of course, will be a joyful occasion.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all about what it is that you do and kind of unpacking that for us. I think it's so useful in any tutors that if you know that there are kids that you're working with
Right.
that they need this kind of direction, connect with Maria and see if this might be a good fit
Absolutely.
because I think this is every kid needs to kind of go through this process and the school system is not providing this process and you can't rely
Right.
on the school to
Right.
be doing this because a lot of them they've got so many students that that is not the first thing that is on
Right.
their checklist. So
Right.
I
Right.
think I mean, even the school that I went to was a smaller school, and, the counselor was there to, mentally support me, but he wasn't really there to guide me in my whole
Right.
college career, even though he did some stuff, he
Right.
didn't it just is not the same, it's a very different
No,
experience, and I can tell you guys because
absolutely.
I went through it with my oldest child, so it's a really good experience, and we're already gonna start the process with my youngest and start going because she's going into 10th grade, so I'm excited to personally be working with Maria. So you know that I really think very highly of her and endorse her because
Thank
she's
you.
incredible. So thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us today, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day.